Welcome, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and I hope you're all having a fantastic Wednesday, a wonderful Wednesday, as I usually say. We are, of course, coming to you live here from the Illinois Media School here in Lombard, Illinois. Again, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, day or night, I hope it is just right. And unfortunately, today on the table side of things, Drew is not with me. Unfortunately, he had some pressing matters he had to attend to. So our best wishes and everything to Drew and everything that's going on right now. But fret not, everybody, because I am not completely alone. I still have with me the man of the hour, the man who makes it all happen, who is one of my most trusted individuals. It is TJ Knacker, ladies and gentlemen. TJ, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. A little bit of surprise that I was on camera, but hey, gotta do what I gotta do.
I said, well, you know what, man? That's when these things seem to happen, right? It's like, okay, we're ready to go, and it's like, actually, TJ, we kind of might need you on this one. So, but as always, buddy, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure when we can get you on, to have you on, amigo. It means a lot. Thank you so much. All right. Well, folks, we've got a lot. This is an NBA-filled discussion we've got going on. Obviously, there's a ton of news that's been breaking in the sports world, little by little, on some of the things we've been talked about recently. But TJ, you ready to get into this stuff?
Let's do this.
Let's do it, folks. So we're going to kick this first half off. We are doing it with, yes, that's right, the Western Conference Finals. And wouldn't you know it, me and Drew kind of guessed it. It's the Warriors taking a Game 5. I thought they were going to sweep on this, but obviously the Mavericks pushed on it to a Game 5. The Warriors win it, though, 120-110. Klay Thompson had an incredible performance. I didn't think this was going to happen. 32 points, 8 for 16 from the three. He was absolutely incredible in this Game 5, at absolutely on target with every shot. This and of course, this is kind of what we have come to know about this team, right? At some point for the Warriors, somebody's going to step up, be it Klay or Steph or Jordan Poole, even Draymond at times during their playoff history has been really rich. But what this now means that they reach the NBA Finals for a 6th time in 8 years. Now, we've heard of this kind of stuff before, TJ, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, if I'm not remembering this correctly, was it not a team potentially here in Chicago that made it to the NBA Finals 6 times in 8 years? Am I not mistaken with that one?
No, you are not mistaken. And they called that the virtual 8-peat.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It just obviously referencing to the 90s Bulls with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and all those great players. This team, obviously, very much, I would say, in that realm. I don't know how you feel on it, TJ, but I would say this team has certainly started to reach that echelon of greatest franchises, dynasties. I know their repertoire doesn't maybe say NBA titles, right? They've lost to the Raptors, and obviously they've lost to a Cleveland Cavaliers team. So they haven't won every championship like the Bulls did in the 90s, but I ask you this, on par with what we've seen from teams who have had these kind of successful runs throughout history of the NBA, where do you see the Golden State Warriors potentially ranking, even without winning this championship just yet? Where do you see them ranking?
So I see this team ranking probably in the top 5 teams.
Okay.
It's a very good team. I'm going to be very biased here. I mean, I always say number 1 is the Bulls.
Yeah, okay.
With Jordan, because Jordan, to me, was the best.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a very good team-played basketball team.
Yeah.
You know that Steph Curry can go off, but you can't lock him down.
Mm-hmm.
You can have Klay Thompson. Now you have Jordan Poole coming in and being able to just come in and take over a game, not as well as the other guys, but he's still young. So This is a really good team. This is a team that, as long as they can keep them together and keep them happy, you could have this team probably go to, I would say, 2 or 3 more championships, just as long as everyone plays nice. You start getting the hatred in the locker room, and you're going to have some big troubles.
Yeah, no doubt. We're kind of seeing actually the blowback now, almost 30 years now from after the Bulls, 30 years from the Bulls, right? Scottie Pippen now being like, oh, Jordan blocked my career. There's an argument to be made. He kind of made your career. But I think this Golden State team, I agree with you. This team, I think, has a great chance to continue their dominance. They're set up in a way that they can continue to do this. Because, listen, Steph Curry won the Western Conference MVP, which I would say he certainly did deserve. He's done a great job with that team. Obviously, other guys did step up. But let's remember this. I mean, what we say with the Celtics also goes for the Warriors, right? This is a very team-oriented group. I mean, you could see it right there, right? That's Steph, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins is another big asset that's come across, right? Klay Thompson's comeback now for the playoffs has been really crucial for them. They've had a lot of moments where guys have stepped up at the right time or come in at the right time and played their best game. And that's very important, right? That's what makes these championship teams last the longevity of the NBA's time's sake, because this isn't supposed to happen anymore. You're not supposed to be able to afford all these guys and pay so much into the luxury tax and keep all these special players, but the Warriors find a way to do it, right? They find the next guy that will step up, the next guy in the journey. I mean, you think about it, right? They drafted Jordan Poole. Now they've drafted Jonathan Kuminga, and they've drafted Moses Moody. And if James Wiseman can stay healthy and continue to grow, who's to say the Warriors don't have another 10 years of dominance, right? I mean, Jordan Poole's already popped. Who's to say that Kuminga and Moody don't pop next? And then you go, all right, so when Klay and Steph retire, we have Jordan Poole and Moses Moody. Jonathan Kuminga becomes the new Andrew Wiggins if they don't want to keep him. And James Wiseman ends up being the 7-foot center that they've always wanted. It can work out perfectly for how the Warriors want to play it. I'm very, and this all comes from Steve Kerr, by the way. This all comes from Steve Kerr being the genius of this team, and Joe Lacob being the owner of the team, hiring all the right people. And he's even said, we didn't draft these guys with the intention of trading them. We drafted them with the intention of being a dynasty. I firmly believe that. And I mean, look at how you've developed your players. Look at how they've come this far. None of us were really giving them a chance at one point to make the NBA Finals. We're like, okay, Warriors are old. They're done. No. We were wrong, folks. Because Jordan Poole and all these young guys stepped up in the season when you need the young guys, right? Playoff time, okay, now Steph and Klay and Andrew Wiggins can step up. The vets can make their plays, right? It's been impressive. Well, let's get to the Mavericks, though, because I want to talk about a little bit of the Mavericks. First off, Luka Doncic, an absolutely incredible player, by far going to be the next great superstar, I think, in the league. I mean, we talk about right now Giannis being the best player in the league. I think Luka's on his way to, if he's not a top 5 player already, he's going to be, okay? And I think he's a top 5 player right now. He gets healthy. He stays in shape. He gets a little bit of help. I mean, we're talking about another probably run like we saw with Dirk Nowitzki, right? Now, that may be something. I don't know, TJ, how you feel about Luka, but do you think Luka can potentially pull off something like we saw with Dirk Nowitzki? If not, maybe even do more, you think?
Yeah, I think he can do a lot more with him, actually, because he's so young. He's so used to being able to play that game that if you actually got some good talent in around him, and maybe I would say if you could get another maybe bigger scorer, I mean, I would like to see maybe send a Vooch down there that could kind of space it out.
Okay.
You would be able to have a pretty decent amount of room for Luka, and he wouldn't have to basically bulldozer over guys to get to the paint. So, I mean, I could see with the right talent that he could be top 5, and they could be in the conference finals probably for another, I'd say 8 to 10 years if they get the right people. But if they decide to kind of, what do I want to say, like a money ball, we can get these guys cheaper, but because they'll produce if this. No. You know what? Sometimes the eye test is key, and you need to put the right people around your stars and spend a little bit of money on them.
I totally agree. Absolutely. I mean, listen, it comes down to, listen, a cute little headline, right? Luka is super, and he is super. He is absolutely, Luka Doncic is absolutely one of the top 5 players in the league. I think by next year, he wins an MVP. I already have him pegged as a preseason favorite for MVP right now, right off the bat. He just looks like that kind of player that if you get him the right kind of help, the right kind of talent, and you let him play his game and he stays healthy and he stays in shape, you're going to get a Luka Doncic who can absolutely dominate the league the same way that Giannis has, if not even better, because this guy can shoot threes and he can get you assists and rebounds. He does everything. So, but it does come down to the fact that the Mavericks obviously were missing a lot right now. Nothing against Jalen Brunson, and Spencer Dinwiddie's been his number 2. But this is kind of the same thing we have talked about, like with the Miami Heat, right? And we'll get to them here in a little bit. But, when your second best player is coming off your bench, that's kind of a problem right now. Like, you can't really have that. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the reality with Miami, but when that's one of your key pieces and he comes off the bench, that's, I think, a bit of a problem. Dinwiddie should be a guy that should be starting with this team, considering the points he drops, but he's not consistent enough to be a starting guard in the league. So, like you said, now the Vooch thing is interesting because considering they just had Porzingis, that's almost kind of a similar player. But I think I know what you're kind of onto, because obviously Vooch can be, I think, a more consistent player than Porzingis. He's not as big and he's not as, I think, awkward, let's say. He knows his body and he knows who he is. So, I mean, hey, if the Mavericks are willing to make a move for him, I'm all for it. Another draft pick or something like that. I'm all for making the move to Vooch as long as the Bulls can get something back in return. Obviously, I would like to, try to get some nice pieces to go to the Bulls, right? But obviously, hey, if the Mavericks are willing to make a first-round draft pick move for him, because clearly, listen, Luka, if you cannot support Luka, he is going to leave, right? We've already seen that in the league. You cannot support your stars. They will leave their teams. That's just the common way it goes, right? Some guys are more willing to stay. Obviously, Luka might be more willing to stay. The Mavericks do a great job giving him a lot of support. They give him the heavy contract. They will probably. Mark Cuban's a guy too that was like, I'll do whatever it takes to keep my top players around and happy, right? Because there was a time, for those who don't remember, Nowitzki was going to leave. Dirk was going to leave. Dirk was going to leave Dallas because he just couldn't get it done. And then they got him Jason Terry and Jason Kidd, and they got him all of these pieces, and they secured a team around him that was like, okay, we might be able to do something with this. And they won enough games. They made the playoffs, and they made an incredible run, and they just dominated, which was beautiful. The first iteration of the Miami Heat, right? That LeBron James, D. Wade, Chris Bosh, they were supposed to win. The first year together, they're supposed to win. They're supposed to dominate. And the Mavericks completely crush them. Well, not crush them, but, they played a good game. Dirk did his best. So if you can replicate that, that's going to keep you alive. The problem is that trying to get those players to come to the Mavericks is going to be very difficult, right? Because Dallas, while it has money, there's no 100% guarantee that this is going to completely work in your favor, right? There's no guarantee that this system is going to play to your favor. As much as I want to believe that Dallas can absolutely go out and get a star to say 100%, oh yeah, I'll come to the Mavericks, absolutely. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Luka's a good selling point, but now you need a little bit more than Luka. And Spencer Dinwiddie, I like Spencer Dinwiddie a lot. Don't get me wrong. I wish he was still a Bull. If we would have known he was going to be this good. I mean, RJ Hunter, really? For Spencer Dinwiddie, I never will forget that. Unbelievable. TJ, back me up. I mean, come on. You remember that the day that probably, not the day, but you remember the moment that happened. Remind us, did that ever work out?
Yeah, no, I remember that, and I'm like, this guy showed a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I mean, and he wasn't that guard that you really needed, but he was a good role player, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're doing this? Like, I mean, in all reality, that was still the Bulls, and if I remember correctly, that's still the Garpax kind of chasing its tail with. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I just say it's the Garpax kind of issue, and
right.
They didn't know what the heck they were doing, and they destroyed the Bulls for many, many years, and hopefully we can get this straightened out. But, yeah. That hurts. Every time I watch them go off for a big number, that hurt.
That's the thing. It was like as soon as he left the Bulls, he began playing, and he played really well with every team he went to, right? He was just that guy that always found a way to stay on a team, be on a bench. 12 points, 8 assists, played good defense, shot well from the three, shot well with the jumper, made himself a name, obviously, in Brooklyn, and then all of a sudden there's this rumor that he's going to get moved out of Brooklyn. He goes to Washington, and all of a sudden there's a rumor in Washington. It's like, well, he's not getting along with the team, and yet he goes to Dallas, and he ends up being, I think, the perfect fit for what Dallas needed to get over the hump, right? He was clearly that number 2 player for them in the playoffs, so You're going to need to, I mean, I would say keep him because he's clearly working with this team well as the bench player, the sixth man that can, like Lou Williams, right? He's like the new Lou Williams for the Dallas Mavericks. He comes off the bench, hits big shots, can score 20, 30 points if you need him to. But like you said, TJ, you need a big man. You need somebody. If it doesn't necessarily even need to be a center like Vooch. You need to get a forward, somebody that can help open up the game, open up the lanes for Luka to charge down there. Because Luka's a big guy. Luka's a strong, big guy. And you want to be able to stretch the floor more with him, and you want to be able to get him opportunities to go down the lane. Or if he's shooting threes, you want your other guy to be able to go down the lane and get shots. And Dory Smith, listen, he's a good defensive player, but he should probably come off the bench, not really be a starter. I like Powell a lot, but Powell, again, feels like a part-time starter at center, split minutes, not necessarily a 30-plus minute guy. They're workers, but they're working essentially for Luka Doncic. They're not working with him on the team. They're just working for him. So, look, the Mavericks are not, they've made it this far. You should give them a lot of props. Luka played really well. They're going to need a lot more help. It all really is now going to come down to where Jason Kidd wants to go now with the rest of this team, who's interested in coming to Dallas. I'm sure there's a lot of guys that want to play with Luka. But it's about who is going to join Luka and how is that going to affect the team roster? How's that going to affect team chemistry? Because we've seen it. Teams who try to bring on guys at some point, it can completely dismantle everything, right? And Luka's a little bit of a hothead kind of guy from time to time, right? He can kind of be a little bit energetic. He can kind of be a little bit, superficial or whatever you want to call it. He's very, he's very into himself, and I think he knows he's a star. He recognizes that. He knows he's going to get away with a few things every now and then. So I think it's important to just remember that, if we want to see more of Luka Doncic, if we want to see more from what the Mavericks can do, we just have to understand that putting that team together, it's all about helping him get better, but giving him the support and taking the pressure off of him. And I think he's got the right coach for it. I think they've got a good franchise for it. Mark Cuban, again, he's crazy, but you got to love him for being crazy. He does great things for being crazy. But they got overmatched. The Warriors were just too good of a team. It's one man taking on like 7 guys, right? I mean, again, props to Luka. I thought he was going to have like a 60-point game. But, the Warriors did a great job. They held him well. So, but you know what? Again, props to the Mavericks. We got to see how they take it. The Warriors are going into the finals now, yet again. They're going to be hard to beat, and we're going to be talking about that coming up next here with the Eastern Conference Finals on what went down in the east side of things. We'll be talking about that here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. Welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin. I'm still here with my guy, TJ Knacker, and we've just talked about the Western Conference Finals, and now we get into the Eastern Conference Finals for the halftime point of this show. Yes, that's right. Eastern Conference Finals. Boy, what a barn burner. Boy, I mean, what a game to come down to. Game 7, it's all on the line. Miami pushing it. By the way, I called this. I said Boston would win Game 5. Miami comes back and wins Game 6. Pretty impressively, by the way. They did, Jimmy Butler left it all out on the court. Well, in this one, they did it the same. But it is the Celtics winning Game 7, 100-96. A great performance. Jason Tatum put it on there, man. You can see those numbers at the bottom there. Putting up those points. Absolutely great stuff from a spectacular player. And I got to be honest, I thought that the Celtics may have finished off the Heat by Game 5. Doing it in Game 7, obviously, is something that we all predicted. In my mind, though, deep in my mind, I thought they can take them out in Game 5. They can absolutely do it. But clearly, the Miami Heat had different plans. They did a great job pressing in on the Celtics, making them have to earn it. So, again, props to the Celtics for being able to keep the fight up and the Heat for being able to keep the fight up. It was a great battle. And the first thing I want to get into is I want to talk about the Heat with this, right? The Miami Heat. Because the one thing you have to give credit for is Jimmy Butler, okay? Because I've talked with other people about Jimmy Butler, and they've asked, do you think Jimmy Butler's a superstar, or is he a star? And I've been on record saying I think he's a star. I think he belongs in that top 20, 30 echelon of players in the league. He can clearly play. I think he can clearly play. Is he a superstar? With the Miami Heat, he is. With the NBA, I don't know if you can say he's a superstar. I like him as a player. I think he's a fantastic, playmaker. I mean, you see those numbers there against Boston. He did everything he could to put it on the line against this team. His three-point shooting, however, was atrocious. His defense was incredible. He did everything he could to stop the Celtics himself. This, again, also goes down to the point that obviously he was kind of a one-man show doing it by himself because the Heat just don't have the personnel to help him out. But I think Butler has really proved that he belongs. If anybody was going to win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, I know Jason Tatum won that award because they was a part of the winning team. I think there was a good shot to say that Jimmy Butler, even though they were the losing team, should have won the conference MVP because he played like an MVP. He put up 2 40-point games to make sure that Miami was able to survive and keep pushing on forward. I mean, you have to give him credit. He does it in Game 2 to make sure he solidifies, like, oh, we're here to play. And then he does it in Game 6 to say, we're pushing this to Game 7. We're not done yet. And he hit big shots in all of them. The problem is, though, is that there were games in this series where he only scored umpteen points, right? He only had like 10 points or 18 points or whatever. I think one game he had 9 points, if I'm not mistaken, where they shot their worst. So, when it comes to Jimmy Butler, unfortunately, the guy that scores 40 points, you need that guy to be there at all times. You can't do it with Jimmy Butler only being the only guy that scores 40 points every now and then. He has to be able to score a lot more. I mean, look at the two guys right now that were his second leading scorers in the playoffs. This is in the playoffs as a whole. Second leading scorer on the team was Bam Adebayo with 14.8, about 15 points a game. Okay, that's your defensive-minded center who dropped 30 a couple times, right? Dropped 30 a couple times, but it wasn't enough. They needed more. Tyler Hero, by the way, was out for the last 2 games. That hurt them a lot. Not having him come off the bench, be able to drop some shots, hit some threes, that killed them quite a bit. He averages 12.6 points a game. You're not going to win a championship with that production. And I'm sorry, Bam Adebayo is not really a number 2. He's probably like a number 3 on a championship team, maybe even a number 4, right? Tyler Hero wants to be a starter, but the last time he was a starter for Miami, it went horrible. He looked terrible out there to the point where they're like, I mean, do we keep him or Duncan Robinson? And by the way, that's when Duncan Robinson turned it on and turned that into, what did he get? Like $90 million, right? Something like that, I think. He got like $90 million out of it, and he's been terrible this year as a shooter that comes off the bench again. Like, he was supposed to be the starter over Tyler Hero. Hero's supposed to be like, well, we drafted you in the first round, but you're going to probably be a bench guy. You're going to be our Lou Williams, essentially, drop 20, 30 points coming off the bench. Now he wants to be a starter, but that didn't work out too well. So I hope he's matured. I mean, I think that was the biggest fault that he had last time, but you need something more than Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo to win these games. I mean, TJ, what did you think about the Miami Heat's performance? Do you think that there's enough there that they can actually win a championship, or do you think that there's a need and a necessity to kind of start moving out pieces and bringing in fresh blood to help out Jimmy Butler at this point?
Yeah, I believe that Jimmy Butler belongs, and I mean it's kind of sad to see him out there. You put this picture up here.
Right. Yeah.
He's tired. He's exhausted.
That's, by the way, from the bubble. For those who don't remember, that's from the bubble. That's the picture from the bubble. But I bet he was feeling like that.
It's still valid.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that man's putting that team on his back, and he's not getting the consistent, pressure that he needs. Like that, those games that he scored, what was it, 9 or in single digits?
Yeah.
It showed exactly what a good team defense will do when you don't have one guy trying to pull the cart. I mean, they just stopped him and just made him look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like Tyler Hero off the bench. I mean, that's really good. That's a spot for him as a starter. I mean, I don't see it.
It's just hard because the last time he was out there after that bubble, right after the bubble, they made him a starter, and then all of a sudden it was kind of just like, oh, this is not going well. He's not playing well. He's not hitting his shots. He was all off.
Right. I mean, so he can, as long as he can shoot, maybe 10, 15 shots off the bench, give you a little spurt that Jimmy can kind of get a breather. But it's kind of like Luka again. That we're looking at. Okay, well, someone else has got to help him.
Right.
I mean, he can shoot as much as he wants, but if there's no Robin to his Batman, I mean, he's stuck out there. So I would like to see the Heat try and bring in someone else for him, maybe another shooter. If they could bring in maybe even someone with more intensity, because when you were talking about it before, maybe I know Portis is looking for for a new team. Maybe
that's true.
Maybe that's the perfect Pat Riley. I know it's not Pat Riley is not coaching, but that's the perfect Pat Riley guy.
Absolutely.
That's exactly. Just gets under your skin, can shoot, can maybe get you that 20 or 30, and will just irritate you so you can't shoot.
Yeah.
So I mean so hopefully they can do to him justice and they can get something else for him, because otherwise Butler's on an island down there.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, you brought up a good point, Bobby Portis, because I don't know how you feel. I'm getting sick of PJ Tucker. I'm sick of Listen, I got respect for PJ Tucker. He's a really good defender, but he's 6'5" and he's playing power forward, and he's 36 years old. He can't play with everybody anymore. I'm not saying he can't play, but he's better off the bench at this point than he is a starter. You want to know what his Game 4 stats are? Let me read this Game 4 stats, okay? His Game 4 stats, 0 points, 4 rebounds, 1 block. He turned the ball over twice. He was minus 16 on the night. That's a guy that was supposed to be an elite defender, remember? That was with the Milwaukee Bucks when they won the championship. He's supposed to be a difference maker, supposedly. I don't see that. So I agree. Bobby Portis, perfect guy. The perfect kind of tough guy, shoots the ball, can play hard. His defense is not all that great, but he'll at least try, right? He'll give you the chance to try. And you got Bam Adebayo down low anyways. I know the rumor is that the Heat are going to look to maybe move Adebayo to the power forward spot. They want to maybe try and get a 7-foot big man in. I've heard Hassan Whiteside might be returning potentially. I don't know how good that move is because I don't know how good Hassan Whiteside is anymore. I feel like he might be a little bit washed at this point. But sure, I get a big man. I don't know. You got to figure out something else besides PJ Tucker. By the way, I'm going to say this too. I don't know how you feel about this, TJ, but Jimmy Butler taking that last second shot from the 3-point line, that's what he does. That's what you do. As the best player, you take the best shot that you feel is available. You could scream and cry all you want. He should have taken the 2. You could have tied the game at that point. You want to win the game. You want to win the game. And you can't. I can't blame him. I'm not going to fault him for not. That shot, by the way, was pretty clean. That thing would have gone in if he just had a little bit more time to set up, but he didn't. He had to rush it. He had to try for it. I applaud him all the way. You can't fault the star for taking the shot. Am I wrong, TJ?
You're absolutely correct. That's why you get paid the big money.
Exactly.
You're supposed to go out there and make that shot.
Yep.
And let's be honest. Going back in a couple series, actually a couple of years.
Yeah.
really, did Kawhi Leonard really have a clean shot when he made that 3-pointer? No.
Not even close. Not even close.
If he was not the star, there was no reason he should have had that ball.
Yeah.
But he's the big money star. He's Mr. Clutch.
Yeah.
We give you $20 million plus.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? End of the game, you get that ball, and you better make it.
That's exactly the point. Listen, you expect LeBron James to take the last game of the shot. You expect, Giannis to take the last game of the shot. You expect your star to take the last game of the shot. And no matter what it is, if he's got as clean a look, by the way, that Jimmy did have at that shot, that was a pretty clean look. I know there was still a guy kind of in his face, but as the star, you got to make that. You got to take that shot. I'm not saying you got to make it. It's not always going to go in. It didn't go in. But you got to take that shot. You got to go for the win. In a game 7, game's on the line, you want to win it. You want to win it. I can't fault them for it. Neither should you. But let's get to the Celtics here, because this was, by the way, a hard-fought series, right? And the finals start tomorrow. Now, for those who are not keeping track, the Golden State Warriors have had pretty, 4 or 5 days now of rest, pretty much. They've had some extra days of rest. The Celtics are kind of going into this pretty fresh off a couple days rest, but they just played a very intense series, right? And my real question now is, can this Celtics team, despite going through some big battles in this one, can they come back on this? Can they beat being beat, right? I mean, they're probably exhausted at this point. So I don't know if it's tough, because the Miami Heat team, they've really punched and bruised and embodied with the Boston Celtics, and it's really tough to be 100% certain if they were going to be able to find the right guys or anything like that, if they were going to be able to beat that team. And Boston, I think, really kind of, I think they really kind of tried to muscle with them, and I think that's probably worn them out. So now I got to wonder, because the Warriors are coming off a couple of days probably resting. They've had some real light shoot-arounds, I'm sure, some good practices. They know that Boston's going to come at them hard, but all the pressure, I think, is still on the Celtics. And this is where I ask you, TJ, I mean, how do you feel? I mean, we're going to predict the game tomorrow, because the game is tomorrow, but, I mean, for the Boston Celtics, they're probably pretty tired. Do you think they can overcome fatigue against the Miami Heat, that long series, hard-fought series? Do you think they can overcome that to potentially match with the Warriors? Or do you think that there's a potential that they might be a little bit kind of bumped and bruised? Because we know Marcus Smart and Robert Williams are kind of dealing with some stuff right now. But what are your thoughts? What do you think about Boston potentially in this series beating the fatigue of the last series?
So, yeah, I mean, I think that they will be fatigued from that series. I mean, the Miami Heat are not an easy team, and they locked them down. I mean, and they got right in there with Bam Adebayo, and, I mean, he knocked him in the chin. They knocked him right back.
Right.
So I think they're going to be a little bit slower, a little more tired. And Golden State's a different team.
Yeah.
It's a much different team. You can try and play that defense that's going to not allow these guys to get off, but there's so many weapons for the Warriors. I mean, what are you going to do? And it's not if they're not going to bump and bruise you, they're going to run you out of the building. And
right.
That would be if I were Steve Kerr, that's exactly what I would do. I would start pushing the ball as hard as I could against them, just to make them run, make them try and get back on defense, because I think once they get set, that Boston Celtics team is still really, really good and can make it through. I don't know about the first game, but definitely the second game, I think they can recover and they can maybe take a game. But yeah, I don't think that the Boston has much of a chance.
It's difficult, and I know right now there's a lot of the pro basketball, the basketball index or whatever it was that I saw was giving the Celtics a larger chance to win this finals, just because and I don't know what it's based off of, but listen, I know that the Celtics are younger. I know they've been more intense defensively, but this is where you have two coaches, right? Steve Kerr, who has been here, done that, all that stuff, right? And I'm not I don't mean to disrespect. I'm not trying to disrespect Udoka, the head coach of the Celtics, but it's the thought professor, the thinker, right? Udoka's a smart man too, but his whole thing has been bring in this defense that's very reactive, use Brad Stevens' style of offense to score just enough points while shutting them down defensively. It's old school style basketball, and it's really worked effectively for them throughout the season, and now into the playoffs, they've been able to shut down teams very well. But Steve Kerr knows this team probably very well. He's been watching film. He's not, he's getting prepared for them. Whichever team was coming out, he was getting prepared for both of them. He has a plan ready for the Celtics to be able to attack them. It is not going to be a pushover situation for Miami for Boston by any means. But Golden State is going to play them perfectly, I think. And I think they are, and I think you're right, TJ. If you push the ball against them, if you really start to run the floor against them a lot, they're going to get exhausted. Listen, you got one guy out there. I love Al Horford, but Al Horford's 37 years old, and his body is not moving the way it used to. Robert Williams is dealing with injuries. Marcus Smart is dealing with injuries. There's a lot to this game right now for these players that you have to take into consideration because not everybody is dealing with 100% healthy bodies. So it's all going to come down to who's exactly ready for which situation, who's ready to play what style. It's all going to come down to that. And it's going to be difficult because obviously Golden State right now has played a very good game where they shoot from the outside, they shoot their threes, which opens the lane up for them to take a lot of two-pointers, right? They spread the floor so that it opens up the lane for them to drive the ball to the basket, throw it down in down low, or just pull up and take a quick jump shot from the two position, right? They simplify the game so much for themselves. They could really outthink the Boston Celtics, who are probably going to try and physically outmuscle them as much as they can. I just don't think that, and I agree with you. I just think that between Golden State and Boston, I think Golden State is going to run with them. I think they're going to try and make these guys get tired legs underneath them and feel the pain. And once they have them, they're just going to take their way with them. And I think it will be Golden State. And that's why they're so good. That's why they're so good, because it's what's the old Kobe line? Everybody's playing checkers and I'm here playing chess, right? That's the whole, or whatever it is. I got that mixed up. But it's that whole situation of the Golden State Warriors are playing chess. And everybody else is playing checkers, just having a good time. Boston could come out in a different way. Who knows? They could find a way to slow them down and be competitive. I think this is going to be a good series. I think it's going to be a good 6-game, 7-game series if Boston can play them right. They have to slow it down. They have to. If Golden State comes out, by the way, and walks the pace, they're playing right into Boston's hands, and it's going to go to a Game 7, I think, at that point. Might even go to a Game 6. I don't know. Boston could take the upper hand. Let's be honest. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are starting to they're starting to feel themselves. And Peyton Pritchard and Robert Williams coming off the bench and Grant Williams, if they can get those guys going, this team has a good chance to be competitive with these Golden State Warriors. So I don't know, but I feel like right now they're probably tired. Their bodies are probably tired. I hope they've been getting a lot of rest because that just means that it's going to be that much better of a series. Real quick, too, by the way, our guy, of course, King B-Mac had some stuff to say. He said, PJ is one of those guys in reference to what I was saying about PJ Tucker. I don't hate PJ Tucker, by the way, so don't jump on me for that. He says PJ is one of those guys where his value is being on a team like Milwaukee where he only needs to knock down a couple of threes here and there and play good defense so your best player doesn't have to use too much energy on that end of the ball. I absolutely 100% agree. I just feel like his movement is starting to be limited due to his age. I know he can still kind of move with some of the more agile guys every now and then, but it seems like he's kind of plotting land now every once in a while. But I get that. He's getting older. He said Miami didn't have enough guys also to help Jimmy offensively for PJ to be in his correct 3 and D role. I totally agree. I totally understand that and totally agree. Miami just did not have enough guys, and that's the thing. Miami's going to need to retool. There's a rumor that says they might trade Kyle Lowry now. There's a real rumor that says they might try to trade Duncan Robinson. They're going to be looking to move some pieces. They're going to shake this thing up. Oladipo's not coming back. He said he's not re-signing with the Heat, which I'm kind of like, okay, well, I mean, he wasn't really too much of a necessity. He was in a couple of games, but I mean, he had 24 points in that one game where Jimmy only had 9. So Nothing against Oladipo. He was a fine player when it was in his heyday, but his heyday now is clearly kind of passed on. He's a good bench player, though. I'll give him that. Good bench player. But overall, Miami is going to need to certainly rescuttle and find the right players to. They need to get a star in there with Jimmy. They got to get somebody in there with Jimmy to help him out. But for Boston, we'll see what happens. We're going to, like I said, tomorrow, we'll call the game. We'll not call the game, but we'll give our final takes on the game, and we'll see how this series bunks out. It's going to be an interesting one. I can't wait. This is going to be so much fun to see defensive-minded Celtics against the offensive-minded Warriors. It's youth versus vets. It's going to be a good matchup. I can't wait. Cannot wait. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we do come back, we're headed to the West Coast yet again because we got to talk about that team out in LA, ladies and gentlemen, because they found their new Capitan. Who is running the Lakers organization? We'll be talking about that here next on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show.
Hey, watch your mouth. Why? I'll just put a quarter in the swear jar. Once it's filled, we get a Coors party after work. I've been drinking Coors since my college days. The cold draft taste is second to none. Yeah, worth the recorder, am I right? You know it, mother.
Hey, you get those reports done?
Yeah. No. You, sir. Attention, employees.
The staff meeting, scheduled for this evening, will now be held tomorrow early as
Who's all? Dudes, we're only 75 cents short. Oh, shh. Boss. Hey, sir, go yourself. You're fired!
And welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin. I'm still here with my man in the back, my producer, TJ Knacker. We just got done talking about the Western Conference Finals in the first half. At halftime, we just talked about the Eastern Conference Finals, and now we return here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, my beautiful man, TJ Knacker, back there. Look at that precious beard, by the way. TJ, I'm so jealous of your beard, by the way. I love it, dude. And so many of our fans actually love it too, man. It's gorgeous.
Thank you very much. It's taken a long time to grow it now, and
How long have you been?
Although during the summer now,
Yeah.
it may end up getting a little shorter or a lot shorter depending on how warm it is. This
I was going to say, how long have you been growing that out for now?
It's about 6 months.
6 months. Okay, that's 6 months of work there, ladies and gentlemen. That's no joke. Because some people were like, that's got to be at least 2-3 years, right? And I was like, no, it's not been that long, ladies and gentlemen. I do remember when it was just not fuzz, but it was very short. I do remember that moment, and then I just exponentially, we saw it got bigger and bigger, and now look at that thing, luscious. Absolutely luscious. All right, enough gawking at TJ's beard. I do it all the time, though, folks. Trust me. I know it's a lot of fun. But now let's move into our next topic, shall we? And the last topic of the day, and that is, yes, if you are not aware, the Los Angeles Lakers have been searching for a new head coach since firing Frank Vogel via social media, apparently, through Adrian Wojciechowski. Great way to do it. But yes, they finally have a new head coach, and it is Milwaukee Bucks assistant Darvin Ham. Yes, that is correct. Darvin Ham is the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. It has officially been confirmed as of this past weekend. Very surprising move, I think, for some people. Makes some sense, I think, for a lot of people. There's a lot of individuals who are saying, I can't believe the Lakers caught this one right. And listen, Darvin Ham is a guy that we've kind of heard a lot about as being a potential head coach going forward. There's obviously a lot of questions that come into this because if you don't know, apparently the finding process for a head coach took some twists and turns, believe it or not. One of the big ones is right off the bat, there was already miscommunication amongst the organization where apparently guys in the front office, be it Kurt Rambis and Phil Jackson, talking with obviously Jeannie Buss right there, as you can see, were saying they wanted Darvin Ham. Meanwhile, the other guy that you just saw up there, Rob Pelinka, along with this other fellow individual that will soon pop up on the screen, you all probably know his name is, yes, it's LeBron James, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, they wanted Doc Rivers. So that was the whole inquiry that was kind of going on through the media of, well, who wants what and who's desiring what. So apparently, Rambis and JaVale Jackson were saying they wanted Darvin Ham because they thought he would be a coach that certainly would bring them back to a more traditional style of building the organization. He would be a great building block for the team to kind of work off of, where obviously Rob Pelinka and LeBron James were looking at a guy like a Doc Rivers and saying he's a win now coach. You know, he can really help this team potentially get to their potential. Look at what he did with Philadelphia and he's done with other teams, right? So there's a real big, battle between who wanted what at one potential output. And obviously choosing Darvin Ham certainly does throw a little bit of a, let's say, a monkey wrench, if you will, into the engine that is the Lakers at this point, because now, I mean, I don't know about you, TJ, but I certainly feel like this move will certainly satisfy the head front office, the head figures there and all that stuff. But now you're telling me that your GM and your player, your top player, who are both vying for apparently Doc Rivers, now get this guy. I know LeBron put out something being like, let's go. Like they got Darvin Ham and like he's all happy for it. But now you hear this word that they wanted somebody else. They wanted Doc Rivers. I mean, for me personally, I feel like this really just can potentially do more harm than good to the organization. I know LeBron's maybe more of a team player, but I mean, what do you think about it, TJ? I mean, the idea that both sides of player, GM, and then ownership front office kind of wanted two different people. What do you think that says for the Lakers kind of going forward with this?
Well, heaven forbid you take the opinion of a Hall of Fame coach and another man who coached, and both players played in the NBA.
Yes.
And would know what it's like to see a good coach and to be taught from a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven forbid that you have to take their opinion. I think that they got it right when they went with Ham. I like Doc Rivers. I like the system, but he just hasn't gotten it done. And I really would be hesitant to bring him back to LA. Different team, same place, but yeah, I just don't like it. And the picture says it all. Like LeBron just steering over the shoulder, like, what are you doing? This is my team.
Yeah.
Yeah, until you start writing the checks, it's not your team.
Right.
So we're going to put out a guy that's going to be able to possibly help those guys that you want to bring back and that got drafted the same time as you did. So I like the pick. I don't. Yeah, Doc Rivers just, you know what? Just leave him in with the 76ers. He and Embiid and James Harden can play and go in the media and say how much they hate each other or whatever. It's fine with me. Just don't bring Doc Rivers back to LA.
It's tough because I get it. Like the Doc Rivers thing is so enticing because like he's a coach that I think he's very good despite his results. I do think he's a very good coach. TJ, you might know this name, Bill Fitch. So I heard somebody on the radio on one of these podcasts I usually listen to who's like, he's kind of like Bill Fitch, where everywhere he goes, win or lose, he always seems to be able to find a way to get a job. Because that was kind of what Bill Fitch, I guess, was known for. He went from the Cavaliers to the Celtics. He won with the Celtics, and then he went on to coach the Rockets, and then that didn't work, so he went to the Nets, and that didn't work. And then he ended up actually at the Lakers and at the end of his career. So it's just interesting that, Doc Rivers obviously has a great reputation. It's just weird. It's like, well, you've won one championship, but I guess that's enough to get you a job. But I do think he's a very good coach. The Darvin Ham thing, by the way, remember this, he took over for Budenholzer when he was in Atlanta for a short time. So you keep that in mind. He also took over for him when I think Budenholzer was out with a COVID, I think it was. Back in the bubble and things like that. He coached the Bucks a little bit in that as well. So keep that in mind too, folks. So it's not like he doesn't have any experience, but obviously this is going to be tough, right? Because now he's stepping into a situation where there's a lot going on in Los Angeles. There's a lot. I mean, we've talked about this team, not to death, but pretty well. And obviously one of the big stories now sounds like the Lakers are actually going to keep Russell Westbrook. And that's one of the kind of key notes that's being thrown out there now for a lot of people to keep in mind when it comes to the Lakers and stuff, is that, you know, the Los Angeles Lakers, I think, want to move on from Westbrook in some degree, but I think they also know, like, what can we get for him, right? That's like the biggest thing. Like, can you get a draft pick back for Russell Westbrook at this point? You know, where is he going to go that's going to satisfy anything that we do anyways? I mean, is anybody going to be happy with the results that you can potentially get from this guy? That's kind of like the big problem right now with the Russ situation. You know, I mean, he's a good player. The idea of getting him back to his MVP form, I don't know if that's going to work. I know that's kind of what Darvin Ham maybe sort of wants. And keep this in mind, too. Darvin Ham's known as a guy that's very kind of rough and tough. In a sense, he's not willing to bend down. He's willing to bark to players a little bit. You know, he's a coach by nature, right? Where Doc Rivers is a player's coach. Both of them, by the way, were players, for those who don't know. And by the way, Darvin Ham does have 2 NBA rings. One was with the Pistons, for those who don't know, that beat the Lakers, surprisingly. And then obviously as an assistant with the Milwaukee Bucks. So he's not shy to a championship, right? Obviously, Doc, the more prolific player. Darvin Ham was just a guy that was a really good rebounder and all that stuff, and he was pretty good. But between the two of them, I mean, I would probably go with Darvin Ham too, because the Lakers need to focus on the rebuild, right? That's the biggest thing. Like, Russ is really nice, and to get him back into form, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's about making it what we see with James Harden, right? What we see with James Harden, I think, is more of what you want from Russell Westbrook, right? Pass the ball, be a playmaker, shoot when you can, drive to the basket when you can. But at this point now, to say he's going to drop 30, 40 points a game is ridiculous. It's just not going to happen. It's just never going to happen, unfortunately. But he can be a 12, 13, 14 assist guy. He can do that with like 15 to 19 points a game. Don't make him like 20, 30-point scorer. It's just not going to happen. If he does that, you're going to lose a lot of games. You're going to lose a lot of games. And the best thing for the Lakers to do is really ride it out, because when you look at this situation, I mean, pull it up right now. You can look at this right now. The Lakers really have no draft picks, right? They have hardly any young talent on their team at this point. And they're also, by the way, over the cap, right? They're $51 million over the cap into next year's salary cap at this point. And those are the 2 stars that are really pretty much taking up a lot of the money, along with Anthony Davis. The young talent, Horton Tucker, is 20, 21 years old, and they're talking about trading him. They're talking about moving on from him, right? Malik Monk, who's about 23 years old, he wants $20 to $30 million a year. What has he done? Excuse me? What have you done? You shoot threes, right? That's really what you do. What do you have, like 40 points in their last game or whatever it was? Something like that. Like, that was his biggest game. At the end of the season with Austin Reeves, who had a triple-double. Good for Austin Reeves. Who's the other guy, by the way, on that team that's also under 25. And I believe there's one other, Kendrick Nunn, I think, is the other one, who just barely slips under the crack on that one. And then there is Stanley Johnson, who was with the Bulls and now with the Lakers, who is 26. And if you're saying that's your 5 core players that are under 30 years old, I mean, if you want to include Anthony Davis, you can. But at this point, let's just be honest. Anthony Davis is 29 years old with the body of a 55-year-old. His body is just broken. There's nothing left. Those knees are destroyed. That back is worn out. There's no way he's going to continue to play the way he has, especially when he hits the big 3-0. That's going to be hell on his body. That's going to be hell. I mean, they have nothing to work with. They have nothing they could work with at all. Guy King B-Mac also says, problem is, Russ doesn't know he's not a scorer anymore. Exactly. That's the thing. Russ doesn't know he's a scorer anymore. LeBron is going to be limited in games. Anthony Davis is going to probably be limited in games if he can even play games at all. And you're telling me Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn and Wayne Ellington and Trevor Ariza, and I could keep going. You know, I could keep listing these players, but where are we going? Or where are the Lakers going? I should say, I'm not them. I'm not the Lakers. Thank God I'm not the Lakers. I would feel terrible. This is the first time I've ever said, would you take the Lakers job? And I would say, yes, but I know the ship is already sinking. I heard somebody say, how would you like it if you took the job as the captain of the Titanic in the midst of going into the iceberg? How would that feel? Nobody would like that. You know where he should have gone? You know where he should? TJ, I'll ask you too. Where do you think that Darvin Ham should have gone? Because personally myself, I think he should have said no to the Lakers and taken the Charlotte Hornets job, where there's young talent in LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges and PJ Washington and draft picks. Players that you can move around and you can get better players, get higher in the draft, build your team out a little bit. I feel like the Charlotte Hornets with Darvin Ham and his way of coaching would have been perfect. You've got the pieces there. You've got a draft picks. You've got, by the way, an ownership that would trust in you, I feel like, with Jordan, unless he would be like, well, he's a Pistons guy. I can't have him. Can't have a Pistons guy in the locker room. Would I have Isaiah Thomas in the locker room? I don't think so. Of course you wouldn't, because you don't like Isaiah Thomas. But I think Darvin Ham and Charlotte would have worked perfectly. I don't think this is going to work at all, because look at what they have. They have nothing. They have no draft picks to really work with other than like one first-round pick. And it's like a couple years out. They have no young talent, and they're over the cap right now, which means they're going to have to figure out how to work these contracts out if they want to keep everybody around. But TJ, I ask you, if Darvin Ham were to not have chosen the Lakers, is there another job that you can think of right now that would have probably fit him better other than this nonsense that we're seeing with right now that is the Los Angeles Lakers?
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about it. That Charlotte would be really nice because he'd be able to have LaMelo Ball. He'd be able to have some young talent that would be willing to play defense, unlike, well, you know, there you go.
There's your team, folks. There's team. That Lakers team.
One of you is willing to play defense, and you got to pick out which one it is, and we all know who it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think going to LA was kind of a move that he did just to try and maybe grasp it, maybe some money, maybe get out there, say, oh, I can turn this team around. Look what they did. But in all reality, yeah, this is the job I think that he can have for maybe 2-3 years. Whereas, like you said, that Charlotte job or maybe some of these other ones that are going to start doing the rebuilds, that he would be able to build a team right and be able to be there for maybe 15, 20 years.
I totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, by the way, let me, if I can, read out the Charlotte Hornets numbers really quickly, all right? Just for everybody to know. Miles Bridges, 20 points. LaMelo Ball, 20 points. Terry Rozier, 19 points. Gordon Hayward, 15 points. Kelly Oubre Jr., okay, also had 15 points. Montrezl Harrell had 11 points. PJ Washington had 10 points. By the way, they then had Isaiah Thomas on the team. He also had 8 points. Cody Martin had 7 points. I could keep going. But that team right there, the guys they just listed that went into double digits, if that's your core roster, I take that in a heartbeat. You know why? Because here's the age of everybody on that team, by the way. Bridges, 23. Ball, 20. Rozier, 27. Gordon, 31. Oubre, 26. Montrezl Harrell, 28. Washington, 23. Those are the guys that just scored in double digits. Does any of that sound like the Lakers, where if I just went down the list right now and I said, here's all the guys that scored a bunch of points, you'd get 30, 30, 20, 30. By the way, Malik Monk is the one guy that scored like actual good points with the Lakers. Everybody else was LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and occasionally Anthony Davis. I don't know how this team is I don't know how it's going to work, but Darvin Ham is stepping into a situation that, I mean, if he turns it around, he looks like a hero, right? But if he doesn't, you're going to be destroyed, right? But at the end of the day, it's not like they're going to fire him anyway. So if I were him, and this is where I ask the question of, can he turn it around or is a rebuild need? I think they need to rebuild. And I think you just run it into the ground at this point, right? Unfortunately, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, listen, you let this thing go, you let the train just fly, you see what happens, and when it finally comes to a stop, okay, let's figure out how we can fix it. How do we fix what's wrong with the Lakers? How do we do it? Because right now, you just have to run through these contracts, I think. Just see what's there. Just see. All right, here we go. LeBron's going to be 39 by the time we're done. Russ is going to be 34 by the time we're done. Anthony Davis is going to be 30. Are any of these guys going to be healthy, by the way? I think they have only one option, and that is to go in a rebuild, because I don't think they're turning it around. I think what the Lakers are hoping for, and this is just me, they're looking at Udoka right now in Boston and saying, we can do that. Who's the next best guy out there that's going to... Because remember, Udoka was a well-sought-after assistant. And so was Darvin Ham. They were like the top 2 assistants out there last year when people were looking for coaches, and everybody wanted to try and get Udoka and Darvin Ham. And as soon as Udoka signed with Boston, I don't know what happened with Darvin Ham. All of a sudden, his name kind of just disappeared off. But I think now he's stepping into a situation where he probably thinks this is a good chance for him to maybe be with one of the best organizations in basketball. If he can turn it around, great. That means you're going to be super successful, because you turned around the Lakers. You turned around one of the best franchises in sports, right? You did it. So I totally get where he might be coming from with that angle. But if it doesn't work, that first year is going to be rough, but you get you might figure out some things, free agency, all that stuff. But if it doesn't work after the second year, you're going to be in a problem. Because I think he's on a 3 or 4 year deal right now. That's what he signed for, I think, a 3 or 4 year deal. So you have limited time to show what you can do. And he's stepping into a situation right now that's kind of baffling, because the front office is arguing. The players obviously sound like they didn't really want him. The GM doesn't sound like he really wanted him. And now you have to go in there and try and convince everybody that didn't want you that you are wanted and that you can help them turn this thing around. I just don't see that happening. But TJ, I ask you this, man. Do you think Darvin Ham can possibly turn this Lakers team around like we've seen with Udoka or something like that? Or do you think this is something where you're just going to have to sit and possibly see what comes next for them, be it a rebuild or whatever the case is?
So I was sitting back here trying to think, how could they get rid of these guys in another way that it would be, beneficial for the Lakers? And I was like, well, how can they get rid of these guys?
Yeah.
It's like in NHL, if you have some of these guys, you can just kind of dump them on the expansion roster,
right,
and hope for someone to pick it up. Well, then I remembered 2024, the NBA is supposed to expand.
Yes.
Hey, guess what? Russell Westbrook, you're on that list. Anthony Davis, you're on that list.
Yeah.
You want to go to, Russell Westbrook, you would be great in Las Vegas. They would love you. You can just be as loud and obnoxious as you want. And it's an expansion team, so no one gives a crap.
Yeah.
So that's the only way that you're going to be able to get rid of these guys in that salary. Because right now, they're an albatross around your neck. And I think it's going to be a problem around hands, Nick. I personally can't wait for those press conferences with Russell Westbrook complaining about how Darvin Ham has gotten into his face and yelled at me, and I'm a man, and I'm a superstar. And for the media just to go, oh, poor Westbrook. Oh, yeah, you know what? The guy was unhappy everywhere.
Right.
It's not like this is a new thing. Like, he's unhappy in L.A. He was unhappy in OKC. He was unhappy in Houston. He was unhappy in Washington.
Yeah.
You know what? At some point, maybe give the guy a wide berth. Maybe if I were the head brass and I could get away with it without LeBron having a hissy fit, I would try and release him just to see what happened.
Yeah.
So, I think you can go this year and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. But after that, I think you may need to tear it down to the bare bones.
I just don't see any other way that this comes out and works in that favor, right? I don't see the Lakers being able to make any moves that are going to actually be of significant change to put this team back on track, unless there's a player out there that's willing to say no to his contract and come on in and join this team. But there's nobody that's going to do that. I know there's the word out there in New York right now, in Brooklyn, that says That's KD saying, like, well, if Kyrie Irving doesn't sign back, I'm not signing back. He's not going to LA. He's not going to go play with LeBron James in Los Angeles. There's no way that's going to happen. There's just no way. And Kyrie Irving, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You think he's going to go back to Los Angeles? I do like, by the way, the meme that was passed around of Russell Westbrook gets traded to Brooklyn and Kyrie Irving goes to Los Angeles. I put that out there on my social media. I was like, oh, please, I want to see chaos. Because those are the two guys that neither one of them can stand. There's a reason why Durant left Oklahoma City, like you said, TJ. There's a reason why LeBron wanted Kyrie Irving out. Both of them are headaches. Okay? Kyrie and Russ can be headaches, especially for those two guys. It'd be that thing where you go, oh, no, it's you again. Oh, come on. Coach, you said we were getting a special player. Well, we are. For who? I would love if that did happen. I would love it if it happened. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. Look, this Lakers team is going to need to definitely have a rebuild at some point. Because I'm looking at their salary right now. Do you want to take a guess, TJ, who one of their highest... So the highest paid players right now are obviously Westbrook at $44 million. LeBron's at $41 million. Anthony Davis is at $35 million. Talon Horton-Tucker's at $9.5 million. There's two players at $5 million right now. One plays and one doesn't. Can you guess which player plays that makes $5 million and which player that doesn't play makes $5 million?
$5 million. I'm going to guess. Can I go with Carmelo Anthony? Does he make $5 million or is he still making a...
He actually only makes $2.6 million.
Really? That's it?
That's it. 1 year contract. Keep that in mind.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Wow. I don't know. Who's making $5 million?
Kendrick Nunn is making right now $5 million this year. Next year, he will make $5.25 million. The player that was getting $5 million that doesn't play, hasn't played in a long time, Luol Deng. Luol Deng's contract is still with the Lakers. Just ran out, folks. Says everything. Yeah, exactly. Says everything about this franchise. Now, granted, too, the Bulls were doing something similar with Omar Asik. Still paying him, what was it, like $2.5 million? Something like that. So I can't really be like, ha ha ha. But still, they had $2.5 million more than Omar Asik. Ha ha ha. And next year, by the way, they're still too high on the cap because everybody's price goes right up. Everybody's making more money. Everybody's making more money. It's all tied up, too, in those top three players. It's unbelievable. I don't know how they're going to survive. I don't know what they're going to do. But the only thing I can think of is ride it out for a season and then just start sending guys off. But like you said, TJ, expansion's coming, which, by the way, yes, the word is expansion is coming in 2024. They're saying Seattle and Los Angeles are getting teams. And I'm really happy about that because, one, Seattle deserves it. Bring back the Supersonics. I don't know what they're going to do for LA. I don't know what they're going to call that team, but I'm excited for that. They got football. They got hockey. Both have been successful, by the way, right? The next thing they got to put in is baseball. By the way, baseball's really hot in Las Vegas. There's a lot of great baseball teams out there, high school-wise. They're a hotbed for that sport. They're going to be strong because baseball's coming next. I don't know when, but it's coming next. But you're right, TJ. They can just throw those guys out there and just say, okay, go to Seattle, go to Las Vegas, get out of here. Best of luck to Darvin Ham. Best of luck. Because I would not want to be on this ship right now. This is it. Yes, and King B-Mac, if you thank you so much for that. Luol is the new Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla, are we happy about the fact that Luol Deng is off the Los Angeles Lakers? How do you think the Lakers are feeling now that the contract's ending? Is he happy? Yeah, happy Bobby Bonilla. That's what I thought. Happy Bobby Bonilla. Absolutely. I totally agree. Totally agree. Bobby, you're totally right. I would be happy too if I were the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, that's going to do it for us here, ladies and gentlemen. As always, we thank you all so much for watching. Please give it a round to our man, TJ, in the back. He doesn't get enough love. Great technical director. TJ, thank you so much, man, for all the work that you do and the work that you did today and talking with me today. I appreciate it so much, man.
No problem at all.
Please, dude, let the people know where they can find you, though, as well. Listen to you, all that kind of good stuff, man.
Well, I'm TJ Knacker on Facebook, and I am Knack300 on Instagram, and I'm in the back here for Blow the Whistle and for X-Bomb.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure to give TJ some follows, give him some likes, some loves, give him any questions, comments, anything he has out there, please let him know. I also, guys, too, if you want to follow me, I'm at The Fluffy Guru on Twitter usually, but I'm also at Boom Crew Captain on Instagram for the most part as well, so make sure to hit me up there if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. Guys, also, too, make sure to follow us on our Facebook. It is, of course, facebook.com/Team Sports, where you guys can see the live stream at any point in time. So make sure to catch us there. You can see any videos, things like that, updates, all that kind of good stuff. Also, too, on the YouTube side as well, it is X-Bomb Sports on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, going live 5:30, 6:30-ish time, Central Time. So make sure to be on the lookout for that, too, every Wednesday and every Thursday. We'll be doing another show again tomorrow. I don't know if Drew will be here or not. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, guys, you guys can catch us there. And also, too, social media, Twitter, at X-Bomb Sports on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to go follow us there. And if you have any questions or comments you want to hit us up with, make sure to hit us up at xvsportsofficial@gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys as always. Going through the podcast real quick for you, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure we've got Blow the Whistle on Mondays, 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time on sportsdownchicago.com. We also got the TV side. We're going live tomorrow, probably about 1, 2 o'clock or so, but you guys can catch us on the screen on Facebook and on, that should say YouTube, not Twitch. Sorry, I haven't changed that in a while. Yes, our Twitch is still not working. Tried it. But you guys can catch us there. We're going live every 2:30, 3:30 Central Time, so be sure to look out on that. Also, guys, too, check out our boy Brandon. That's right, he's at 94.3 WMKR doing the thing for Genuine Radio. Also, too, hit him up at Baseball Banter with Brandon on Spotify, where you can hear his wonderful podcast about everything going on in the baseball world. And along with that, too, if you want to check out another great podcast, there's Money Motivation with Hannah B on Spotify as well, to get all your positive vibes and everything that you need to keep yourself pepped up. You guys can check her out also too at 102.3 XLC, The Afternoon Drive. She's doing her thing right now, so you guys want to go check her out. Make sure to go check her out, give her some love, give her some calls, give her some hey, what's up. And also, too, you can hit her up on Star 96 in the morning. She's doing her thing after 8 with a famous, very well-known Mr. Eddie Volkman. She's killing it right now in the radio game, so be sure to check her out there as well. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting the hunger burps. Also, too, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to go check out our boys at theparlay.com. As our boys Tony Lopez and former Chicago Bull and professional boxer Kendall Gill. For all your fighting needs. By the way, those boys give out some great tips. So thank you, Geronta Davis, and thank you to the boys at the Parlay for making that be able to happen. Also, make sure to tweet out hashtag Gill versus Paul, Paul versus Gill. We want that Jake Paul to know he's coming for you, Jake Paul. Kendall Gill's coming for you. Come get some. Also, too, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out the Fake Football Guys on YouTube. Fake Football Guys for industry fantasy football needs on YouTube. Again, Fake Football Guys. Check them out. And that's going to do it for us here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you guys on the next show tomorrow. And as always, thank you all so much for listening. And much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.